In this section, we will look into the difference between shapes and solid layer. Solid layer is like an artboard in After Effects. Let's create a shape first. In shape layer, we can always create using pen tool or any geometrical shapes. But if you want to create a solid layer, we need to select the timeline and go to Layer, New, Solid. So once you have solid layer here, I can rename the solid into yellow. And right now, maybe the size I want to make it smaller, 800 times 800. And I like it to be yellow. So just yellow solid one. Right now here, you don't see anything. If let's say I click OK, you'll be able to see a solid over here. And if I expand, you will see that there is a solid layer. So shapes, it will create like a vector files in the layer itself. It won't generate any source in project tab. But for solid layer, it will generate a source in project tab and you can keep on reusing it. You can just drag and drop and reuse it again and again in different composition. So let's delete this. And let's take a look what is inside solid layer and what is inside shape. So if I expand it down, you'll see that because solid is like an image, so it only has transform. For shape, you have content and transform. Selecting the solid layer, we use shape tool or pen tool. I can pull down and create a mask onto the solid layer. And if you see that this is the black bar, or I turn it to transparency, this is transparent. The reason being is you only have 800 times 800 pixels of square. So you can expand the mask and these are the things inside the mask. Other than this, everything's the same. So if you create a mask like this and your anchor point is at here, you no longer can go here, transform and move your anchor points to the center. Reason being is it will calculate the size of solid layer, not the size of your mask, meaning that the star. If let's say you see that the anchor point seems like off from the star because it is transparent over here. And this is the only area that it is calculating. What we can do is we need to move the star in slightly. So here, the mask path, we can go back to our selection tool, double click on one of the point and move it down. And feather, this is the feather. But the feather will affect by the side of the solid layer. And mask opacity, whatever that is inside the mask affected by this opacity. Expand. Want to expand it down. When you drag to the left, it reduces. When you drag to the right, it increases. The setting of the mask are simple. And if let's say you have this add section over here, meaning that this is the intersection. In one solid layer, I can create few masks as well. So you see, I create another mask and here you go. I have a shape like this. So if let's say I have two masks and the top mask I have add, the second mask at the bottom, I put subtract, meaning that the second mask subtract the first mask. If intersect, it will go for the intersect section. Lighten, darker, normally we don't use that difference. It will be invert. I can also put none so that it disappears. So if let's say I put both none, meaning that no mask is affecting the solid layer. So solid layer, you can create it same size as the composition, which is 1920 1080, to turn it as a background color or to make it as the sky. So these are the difference of solid layer and shapes. We press M to view the mask path, and MM is to review everything. So if let's say I change back to add and I try to scale this, now the anchor points is not in the center. For mask on solid layer, we can use the pen behind tool, hold down Control and make sure that we are at the center of the star. Right now I need to delete this and then I can get the center of the star. So now if let's say I scale it big, you see that it gets started to have pixelate, because in our solid layer, what we read is the pixels, not vector. So we can conclude that solid is like an image, shapes is like a vector layer. Now let's take a look at mask. Other than creating shapes on a solid layer, we can also create shapes on, for example, I have an image like this. I just scale it down slightly. And I want to mask the bow out. I can always select the layer, select the pen tool, drag, hold down alternate, draw my curve. Remember, when you want to mask something, the least point you have, the merrier. So when you close path, you will be able to see that there's a round shape on beside the pen tool. So now this is what you have cropped. So basically masking out this. So now you can go to your mask path and change to none first in order for you to check your lines. And you can change the color of it if, let's say, you feel that it's very hard to see. Okay, try to trim it nicely. Once you are done, you can just change back to add, and that's how you use shape tool and pen tool on an image or on a solid layer. You mask them. So this is the difference between solid layer and shape layer, as well as you using shapes tool to create mask on solid layer or an image.